Oh yeah, welcome back. The expansion has finally been announced, ladies and gentlemen. Battle for Azeroth is the brand new expansion that will be released in World of Warcraft. If you've been living under a rock, well, don't worry. I'm going to give you my first impressions on the overall announcements and kind of walk you through what I feel like is happening with Battle for Azeroth. My hopes, the do's and don'ts that I would like to see from the development team moving into this upcoming expansion, and I really, really am happy about how this expansion was announced. I'm very interested in the fact that we are bringing back the story from this huge big bad guy and kind of bringing that back to the Horde versus Alliance aspect. As somebody who's played Warcraft since I was like 6 years old, back from like Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3, I'm thrilled. Like, I'm really thrilled to see the cinematic that came out, all the new features, the fact that we're going to be going to Zandalar and also Kol Taras for the different factions, and seeing that the cities and the Azeroth, Kalimdor, and Eastern Kingdoms matter again. Like, they really matter, and that's really cool for me. So, there's so much to talk about, and the first one that I want to talk about is the fact that the overall storyline is changing. Like, you're not fighting Sargeras or N'Zoth, like, I thought about in my expectations of this upcoming expansion. There are those threats there, but the storyline really does feel broadened for this upcoming expansion, guys. And something that I really would love to see serve some justice for the story itself is that, like, I want to see more. Like, I think that there's an opportunity for like a very broad scope within this expansion that kind of looks towards several different storylines as opposed to the one continued group effort of killing some big bad guy. While I think that the Anduin versus Sylvanas thing is very, very cool, I love seeing the cinematic where they were up at Undercity fighting against each other, and I love seeing that power and that rivalry in between them. I think that there's just so much more available, whether that's developing like a rivalry between the Tauren and the Night Elves because of their conflicting, like their druid beliefs and the differences between the different Tauren and the Night Elf, and kind of understanding overall like where they're at, or whether that's like looking at the dwarves and how maybe Magni is going to be fighting Sarfang. I think that developing from just this one single effort and this one single goal of Sylvanas versus Anduin, and kind of diversifying that into the different characters, kind of similar to like a Game of Thrones plot line, or even like looking into the most recent Star Wars movie. Like, both of those have very successful storylines and plot lines, and a lot of people are very engaged with that. And I think that the thing that they have in common is the fact that they are so diverse. You could be following one character and seeing how that one character deals with their problems, and then you can jump around to another character within the show and kind of seeing the differences and the conflicts that they're going through and where they're at, and the different, like, there's just so much space in the world, and there's so much space in the storyline with the different personalities that I feel like Battle for Azeroth could really offer some very cool stuff, and looking towards that type of diversity if that kind of effort is put there. But then again, Blizzard could always look at just doing the Sylvanas versus Anduin thing, the Horde versus the Alliance as a whole, and not really dive super deep into the different, like Blaine Bloodhoof or something like that, and seeing his conflict. It's really interesting, but my hope is that they will look towards the overall aspect of all of the different personalities within the Horde and the Alliance, and kind of having them have different stories along the way, as opposed to just the one same effort. And moving on from that, I want to talk about, like, within the actual game, some things that I felt like were really emphasized by Blizzard. And the first one that I want to talk about is actually just like the PvP aspect of it. Like, the world PvP was talked about in a lot of ways, and I'm going to be explaining these things in way more detail on my channel in future videos that are coming up later this week and next week. But I think that the first one I want to talk about is world PvP. So world PvP in Legion was basically dead. Like, there was no world PvP. Even if you were on a PvP server, you would go out into the world, you'd see people world questing or whatever, and like you would rarely fight them. How they're doing it now is they're basically merging every single server into a way that they're getting rid of the PvE, PvP server aspects of the game, and actually making that so you can toggle your PvP, your PvP action, or like if you want to be a PvP player, you can actually just click that off of your character screen or whatever, toggle that you're in PvP, and then you will go out into the world and you will be on a specific PvP server that the game puts in for you. and kind of makes that a populated thing in which that the Horde and Alliance are even, as opposed to it just being like only Alliance on that server because, you know, that's just the server you're on, or only Horde, whatever. I think that's really cool, and I think that that offers a lot of opportunity for Blizzard to be able to make this. The thing about World PvP, and the thing that I want to see, and I feel that a lot of players, the PvP players specifically, feel this way, is that when you go out into the world and you see another player, you can kill them, but it doesn't give you a whole lot. And I know back in vanilla, like killing World PvP, you know, it would give you a little bit towards your rank, and that's cool, but I want World PvP to feel like an opportunity. I want to be excited when I see another player, because killing them gives me something, and it's farther than just the competition. Like, I want World PvP to be as incentivized as doing a world quest or getting your Mythic 10 done. Say you kill 100 players or you kill 1,000 players that week, next Tuesday you're going to have a box full of a PvP piece of gear that's really awesome. And the only way you're able to get that is if you go out into the world and kill other Alliance or Horde players. Or if you kill these Alliance and Horde players, you get a piece of honor. And this honor chunk is actually worth a lot in World PvP, so it's incentivized to go out there. Like, I want some kind of reward to be for players that engages them and makes them feel like when they kill other players or when they fight other teams in the world, the other faction in general, like, I want them to feel like they're rewarded for doing that, because that reward is worth doing it in the first place for a lot of players. And I feel that when they start getting into that World PvP, and when that's incentivized for everyone, that competition and that fighting and that fun will just kind of be the process of getting to that reward. So that entire experience will be very positive in my mind. So I really do hope that World PvP is worth it, because I know that they had talked about if you are PvP toggled, you'll get a little bit more incentivization for being PvP toggled as opposed to PvE. But I really do hope that Blizzard sets up World PvP for the next expansion to be like the norm, like the status quo. You know, I want people to really, really want to be in World PvP because of whatever reward they get. And I want that to be normal. I want people to want to engage with PvP and want to fight each other because it's worth it. And I hope to see that. I really do hope to see that. I think that the new races in general, just moving on, I think that the new races in general, the 6 new sub-races you can play next expansion, the Nightborn, the High Mountain Tribe, the Dark Iron Dwarves, the Void Elves, and 2 more that I just slipped my mind right now. I think that that's really going to shake things up and add a lot of diversity for the game. You know, World of Warcraft and the different factions and the races you've been able to play have been so kind of the same, you know, for a while, and they've released new races every now and then, like every other expansion, but I think that there's just like a huge opportunity to have these races with their different racial abilities and storylines within the Horde and the Alliance. I think that that's going to really shake things up for players, and I can't wait to try out like Void Elf and Nightborn. Like, those sound super fun to me. And I've heard that like High Mountain has like a 1.5 second knockback or knockdown stun. Like, that's pretty sick, and having that kind of thrown in there into the mix will really change things up. And I think that a lot of people will really resonate with the fact that they can further look towards different aspects of their character as opposed to just the class. You know, the race is going to hopefully be a really big tie into that. And I'm very interested in the fact that there is a lot more options. It's not just 1 or 2 different races, it's 6, and that's a big, big deal. And last thing that I want to talk about in this video, guys, just for my first impressions, are going to be the Warfronts. The Warfronts are probably the most interesting feature that I've seen added into the game for the entire expansion thus far. And Warfronts in general, if you guys don't know what they are, they're basically an RTS style game mode within the actual game. So it's kind of like Warcraft 3, but World of Warcraft perspective. So what this means is you're going to go into a 20-person battleground, I guess, battleground/dungeon. And you're going to basically have to gather resources, build up structures just like you did in Warcraft 3 or any other RTS, and those structures are going to be able to send out armies for you. And this is a team effort. Like, you have 19 other players on your team fighting a 20-person team of the opposing faction, and that's going to basically be a huge battle. And this is so cool. This is a huge deal, guys. This is something that I really hope doesn't turn into Isle of Conquest or AV, because people don't really like AV and Isle of Conquest right now. Most people check those off. I mean, I think a lot of people like are going to go into Warfronts with a very clean, not like fresh thought of this new type of game mode, and I really hope that it's just interesting. So what's really cool about Warfronts, and I want to talk about this at length, and I'm going to, is just that like it offers a new type of content that's never been in the game before. And I really, really hope that they don't just like throw out Warfronts altogether and like all of Warfronts are just now available. I really hope that this is something that Blizzard takes seriously as like a content release. Because in Legion, you know, the overall viewership and the overall engagement of the players throughout the expansion had always been focused around like a new raid being launched. And new raids being launched are always going to be super popular, but I think that Warfronts in general and new Warfront scenarios can really not only push forward the overall understanding of like who's winning or where the battle is being taken place in World of Warcraft between the two factions, but I think that it really can offer a type of content that people can get excited about. And I think that that in general is going to just have so much different possibilities. So one part of Warfronts is that you actually can fight different commanders of the Alliance and Horde. So I really do hope that they treat this in a way that's not just like you run in and it's just random and like there's 10 of them and that's the entire expansion. Like there's no like new commanders or whatever. You know, I really hope that say this week it's Sarfang versus, you know, Muradin's brother or whatever. And that gives you like a piece of gear or that gives you a certain achievement or whatever, like something that's worth going out and doing that. But then say like a month from then the story goes even further and now you're fighting in a new area within the World of Warcraft and you're fighting with 2 new commanders and that gives you something even new or a new loot table similar to like world bosses. And having that be worth it, like having that be worth your time to go out and do. And not only is that specific new scenario available, but also the old one is available. And that's kind of treated as like a content release so that people can engage with that over time, as opposed to all at once and everyone just kind of does the war fronts and it's over. Like I really want this to be something that's kind of thrown out there over time and engages players and gets people excited more than just once, because Warfronts is a really cool game mode. It's really, really interesting how they're going to be combining RTS and MMO basically into one game mode. I hope that they make it worth it for players. I hope that they make it fun, and I hope that it makes it like they make it last throughout the expansion, because World of Warcraft struggles later in the expansion with their player base, and I really, really hope that come Warfronts or come Battle for Azeroth in general, that the content schedule and the content releases are over time and are long and have more than just raids being released and people coming back to do the raid and then quit again. Like I want to see more content releases, even if they're smaller and over time. I just want there to be more for players to do and more for players to stay subscribed for. So that's just my overall thoughts, my overall first impressions of the game, guys. I really want to know what your thoughts are on Battle for Azeroth. Anything that I talked about in this video, leave a comment down below letting me know what your thoughts are. Discuss with me. I'm going to be reading these comments and replying to a few of them. But guys, I hope that you did enjoy this video. I hope that you enjoyed my first impressions. I'm going to be coming out with a lot of explanation as to these different game modes and these different types of play, and overall just Battle for Azeroth, looking into it as a whole. I love looking through new expansions. It's my favorite part of World of Warcraft, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this content. Be sure to leave a thumbs up on this, and I will see you all next time. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow.